Businesses today are constantly challenged by changing conditions and consumer expectations. Fortunately, there is still a thorough way to transform the company and provide product offers electronically, that is, to move your business to e commerce with an advanced e commerce ecosystem. Whatever your business is, e commerce offers exciting new potential to expand and gain a competitive advantage. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, the pandemic has definitely magnified a previous trend in which many traditional corporations try to create or participate in digital ecosystems only to fall short. These ecosystems consist of interconnected sets of services through which users fulfill a variety of cross sectoral needs in one integrated experience. Today's dominant ecosystems were launched by tech companies, giant tech companies, which have used hyperscale platforms to compete with, this intermediate, and often substitute for the offerings of traditional competitors by controlling customer interfaces and control points such as search, advertising, and messaging. So, how do these new ecosystems work? To shed light on this, let's welcome Sameer Kanodia, Managing Director and CEO of Lumina Datamatics. Hi, Sameer, how are you doing?
Very good, Priya. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you today on our podcast. And of course, we are going to talk a lot around e-commerce, around the publishing industry, how the e-commerce industry is going to change in the coming years, or what companies should be doing in order to survive in an era which is truly, truly driven by online shopping and e-commerce platforms. But before we dive deeper into our conversation, we would like to know more about Lumina Datamatics. It would be great if you could, brief us about the company, its specialization, any particular solution the company is offering.
Well, Lumina Datamatics is a global content and technology partner for publishers and retailers. We provide end to end content services, e commerce support, and technology solutions. Our clients include nine of the world's top 10 largest publishers and three of the top five global retailers. We are amongst the five largest players in the industry. We have about 7,000 employees and we have got operation locations across India. We also have a presence in the Philippines, in Europe, and the USA.
Great. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Sameer. Very crisp and very on point. And I'm sure our listeners definitely now have a clear understanding of the foundation you're built on. And, it sets the perfect stage for us to dive deeper into today's conversation. Let's move ahead and, explore more about your expertise, Sameer. You have more than 20 years of experience in the publishing industry and, serving across different objectives and goals. But we would like to know more about you, Sameer. How has the journey been till date? And what exactly is your role and contribution towards the company?
Well, it's been an exciting journey over the last 3 decades. I have been with the company for more than 30 years. I'm part of the promoter family. As the managing director and CEO, I provide the necessary strategic direction towards the overall growth and well being of the company. So I generally work very collaboratively and draw conclusions in a very consultative manner. The decisions that are taken at the helm have got long term impact and have a compounding effect. So at a macro level, I focus on three imperatives. I always look ahead of the curve. We setting the product and platform roadmap that moves us from being a service company to a solutions led partner. Scaling intelligently, we invest in global talent and a delivery capacity globally. As I said, we've got multiple locations or operations in India. We also have a presence in the US, in Europe, and the Philippines. And of course, finally, building on trust and scale. So our customers treat us as partners and we share a mutually rewarding relationship. So we have remained financially sound. We have invested in technology and have made significant acquisitions. At the same time, we have remained quality conscious. We have gained market share and we have maintained the highest levels of governance. We take our acquisitions very seriously. We grow organically and inorganically, and we made some very strategic acquisitions the last few years. My proudest moment has been that the culture in Lumina Data Management is quite different from most organizations. We have a sense of ownership across 7,000 employees and 7,000 professionals worldwide. We have decentralized the entire decision making process so people feel empowered to do the right things for the organization.
Great, that's wonderful to hear, Samir, and thank you for sharing that. It's pretty clear that your role goes far beyond just the core responsibilities. It's more about driving impact and shaping the vision of the company. Truly a very inspiring journey, I must say. Building on that, let's dive into our core conversation today. Now, people still want the TV and movie experience offered by traditional studios, but social platforms are becoming competitive for the entertainment time and even more competitive for the business model that studios have relied on. Now, social video platforms offer seemingly endless variety of free content, algorithmically optimized for engagement and advertising. Now, they will make or adopt or integrate advanced ad tech and AI to match advertisers with global audiences, which is now drawing over half of US ad spending. So, what are some of the emerging business opportunities you are currently witnessing in the e commerce and digital content ecosystem?
So we are largely in the space of providing content to the world of publishers and to the world of e-commerce. We also provide them software solutions. Now, the next wave of opportunity that we see is not necessarily volume, but it's all about intelligence. So some of the themes that define the future, in my opinion, are AI-driven content automation, automation tasks like tagging, alt text, editorial pre-flights to compress workflows and improve quality. I think that's going to be one important part. The other equally important part, I think, will be domain specific training data. So enterprises are realizing generic data isn't enough. They need high quality curated data sets to power AI models with accuracy and trust. And finally, I think it's going to be a knowledge driven retail. So we link product content, buyer intent, and channel rules to drive conversation, reduce returns, and improve the customer experience. At Lumina Datamatics, we are investing in these areas through various platforms and proprietary tools. Our clients want quicker launches, better discoverability, more measurable growth, and the real opportunity lies ahead in all these things.
Definitely. I think that was pretty much, on point, I would say. And it is very fascinating to see how the e-commerce and digital content ecosystem is not just expanding, but, it's evolving in ways that is blurring the lines between commerce, content, and community. I think you mentioned about the AI-driven content automation and ensuring that we have domain-specific training data. I think that will definitely help us create more immersive experiences and that I mean it is kind of fascinating to wonder about the role of technology and innovation that is fueling this transformation. When we're talking about the e-commerce market, Sameer, I think if you talk about the e-commerce market in India, it is booming. And as a result, organizations are investing heavily in mobile apps to provide seamless experiences for their users. I came across a recent study which found that 81% of Indians use their smartphones for online purchases. And furthermore, 5 in 10 Indian customers almost always or frequently use their smartphone in store for price comparison or to view live product reviews. But the other side is that customers are also demanding good experiences around the clock. You probably have, if there's, slow loading times or there is lack of adequate online payment options or unsolicited notifications, I think they can turn a loyal customer into a very frustrated one pretty fast. So, what are some of the persistent pain points you observe across global and Indian e commerce players that remain underserved, and how Lumina Datamatics is positioned to solve them?
Well, you brought out a very pertinent point in the beginning that the internet penetration is very high in India and is actually growing. So, as a percentage, of course, is doing very well compared to the rest of the world. But also in done countries like in the US and Western Europe, the number of people on the internet is far larger as an absolute number relative to a percentage. Adding to that, Lumina Data Management really operates more on the international marketplace and not necessarily in the domestic marketplace. But having said that, I think the pain points are very similar, very surprisingly. So the pain points are same across boundaries. So whether it is USA or Europe or India, I don't think it really matters. The shoe pinches in the same places. So they relate to a fragment. The issues with the e-commerce space is that they have fragmented product data, inconsistent taxonomy, accessibility gaps, and slower seller onboarding. So these issues translate to delayed launches, compliance risks, low volumes, low revenues, and not very good customer experiences. So our approach is overall has been quite multifold. We have platform-enabled governance that enforce taxonomy and compliance at scale. That's one thing that we do effectively. The second part, of course, is integrating AI and human in the loop workflows that combine speed with human judgment. So, yes, we do use artificial intelligence, but that does not necessarily eliminate the human touch in the work that we do. And finally, of course, the integrated customer experience and workforce management solutions. So, catalog, content, and support operates as one connected system. So, the blend of people, the blend of platform, data services allow us to address inefficiencies that limited growth. The outcome, of course, is operational consistency and strong trust with customers. But again, as I said, we operate more the international marketplace, not domestic. But regardless, I think the challenges are very similar whether you operate in India, USA, or Europe. It doesn't really matter.
Definitely, and I think I'm glad to understand that, the pain points are same across boundaries, and India is equally positioned in and aligned with the other countries in terms of the challenges that we are facing today. So I think whether we are talking about customer engagement issues or good customer experiences that we want to deliver, I think they will continue to affect the industry despite how we are moving towards a more future oriented industry. And of course, with Lumina Datamatics in the picture, I think I'm glad to know and understand that you aren't just identifying these gaps, but also actively positioned yourself as a partner to e-commerce players with solutions that are both scalable and future ready. And of course, when you're talking about blending of people, platform, and processes, the right set of tools and people and processes definitely make a huge difference in terms of innovating more solutions and solving these pain points. Moving ahead, for example, I think a lot of people have been here before. You are merchandising for a fast growing brand. Your day to day goals are clear: boost conversions, delight customers, and earn more revenue fast. And you propose more dynamic product bundling on your side so that buyers get to choose specific product options to bundle together instead of having fixed pre selected bundles. Now, as an idea, I think everybody is on board. But as your merchandising and marketing team starts to set up your site to support these dynamic bundles, you find yourselves adding hundreds or even thousands of stock keeping units, the SKUs, to accommodate for every potential bundle variation. And of course, alarm bells go off as your boss or boss's boss asks you, can we really afford to add all these SKUs? So I think you and your team are experiencing a dreaded SKU explosion. So, and of course, we know that, the SKUs are exploding, and with that explosion and, the rapid onboarding of sellers, how do you manage quality control at scale?
Well, as you very rightly said, there are millions of SKUs and new sellers enter marketplaces. A single error can erode confidence. So, our approach combines the best of automation and human expertise. So, of course, we use AI, we also use human intelligence to ensure that things don't get messed up. The AI driven checks catch inconsistencies instantly, while the experts focus on the edge cases where this judgment matters. All said and done, you can't totally rely on technology. The human mind also certainly does play a role in this. So, at the same time, as we continuously focus and look at feedback loops and analyze to keep improving accuracy, the balance of machine efficiency and human insights ensure that even when the volumes surge, quality remains uncompromised. So, the human part, of course, is very, very important, but of course, technology helps us become more efficient and scale up in many ways.
Truly, I agree with you. I think when you're talking about managing quality control at scale, I think in today's era, we have this sheer number of SKUs. I think, automation and human intelligence definitely both play a very important role with, the AI powered automation, probably, where they can make sure catches inconsistencies. I think on the other hand, we also need human input where critical judgment is required. And I think that is where most of the organizations, fail because they kind of, I think, entirely rely on automation or AI driven solutions, which is perfectly fine to some extent. But then I think later on, we definitely need human input in terms of growing and ensuring that the decisions that we are taking are aligned with the company's overall growth. Moving ahead, as consumers increasingly adopt digital technology, the data they generate create both an opportunity for enterprises to improve their consumer engagement and a responsibility to keep consumer data safe. Now, these data, including location tracking and other kinds of personally identifiable information are immensely valuable to companies. And many organizations, for example, they use data to better understand the consumer's pain points and unmet needs. And these insights are definitely needed, to develop new products and services or to personalize their advertising and marketing strategies. So how do you approach data security and compliance, especially when you're handling large volumes of client side product and consumer data?
So you brought out a very pertinent point. How do you ensure data security? And data security is, in my opinion, fundamental to trust. Now, when we talk about data security, it's not necessarily doing things on the web or something of the nature, but how do you ensure personal data is secured? How do you ensure financial data remains secured? So at Lumina Datamatics, data security and compliance are embedded into our operational model. We are ISO 27001 certified, which means that our practices are independently audited at the highest global standards. We ensure all projects follow a rigorously documented information security policies with clear access protocols, ongoing internal audits, and regular employee training. So we take this in a very serious manner so there are no loopholes and data security is not lost in any which way. We maintain transparency with our clients. If they require any specific contractual controls or additional reporting, we adopt to these needs as well. There's the flexibility combined with the certified security posture ensures client knows their data is handled responsibly, consistently, and with integrity.
Glad to know about that, Sameer. And, I think when you're talking about data security and compliance are indeed non-negotiable in today's landscape, especially with the growing regulatory frameworks and the sheer volume of sensitive, business information we are dealing with. Just like a follow-up question here is when you're talking about how the company has positioned itself in terms of ensuring data security and compliance, are there certain steps that you take or certain aspects that you ensure when defining these data security and compliance strategies?
Well, we ensure that all our data is in a secured network. So that's something very, very important. What's equally important is that we also educate and train our staff to handle this data in a secured manner. So when data goes from point one to point two, we ensure that our networks also make sure the data is not lost in some sense. We ensure that's done in a very secured manner where data protection is very safe and customers are not threatened by any which means.
Right, definitely makes sense. And I think when we're talking about living in this digital age, I think entire publishing industry is undergoing a landscape change. Print newspapers and magazines are witnessing a decline in subscriptions. Of course, print books are also navigating the digital era somehow. But the industry contributes to India's economic development overall, not only by promoting the learning and education, but also by creating employment for more than 1.2 million people. An increase in enrollment rate in institutions, government initiatives on education, and an increase in the overall education expenditure. I think all of these are the key growth drivers for the Indian publishing industry. While I understand, Sameer, that Lumina Datamatics caters to more of the global atmosphere and landscape in terms of serving your clients in the publishing industry, I want to understand: do you feel that Indian firms have that capability still in terms of shaping the future of digital publishing and content tech globally?
Again, I look at this at a very macro level. What's happened is that over the last 50 odd years, the IT industry contributes to about 7.5% of India's GDP, and it has contributed to more than 5.5 million jobs. India has become a global IT powerhouse. So India is no longer just a back office for publishing or any other industry. It has become an innovative lab for the entire world. That's the way I look at India. So for decades, Indian firms powered global publishing and content operations with scale and skill talent. However, the future is about intellectual property, AI, and platforms. What excites me is the shift from execution to innovation. Indian companies are now designing cloud native platforms, embedding generative AI into editorial and catalog workflows, and creating SaaS products that are now not just used by global publishers but trusted by them at enterprise scale. So, Lumina Datamatics, we have made the shift. Our proprietary platforms reflect how Indian firms can productize decades of domain expertise into scalable technology. So, combine that with India's unmatched talent density, and entrepreneurial energy, we get a model where India doesn't just deliver publishing solutions, it architects the future of content tech worldwide. So I think India has gone a long way from what we thought it was earlier and where we stand today in the world of technology.
Definitely, and I think that's a very interesting perspective that you share that, some of the capabilities that or the strengths that India as a overall country has. I think it's great to understand that how they can, capitalize on these strengths and ensure that they're actually driving innovation in scalable tech solutions. And it what really stands out is the way the Indian publishing companies are bridging diverse markets and audiences and proving that India is uniquely positioned to shape the next phase of content technology worldwide. And I think our listeners will agree that this is a space to watch closely as the ecosystem continues to evolve. So, one last question for you, Sameer. Lumina Datamatics is a global content and technology solutions providers, and of course trusted by leading publishers and retailers, like you mentioned. And with your AI powered platforms like Blue Pencil and structured content workflows, I think the company's position itself for faster and smarter publishing. Looking ahead, what are certain strategic priorities or future plans for Lumina Datamatics?
So when I reflect, I think our future is anchored in one principle, which is delivering measurable outcomes to our clients. So as I'm looking ahead, we are focused on a few strategic areas. So we want to strengthen our platform ecosystem, continue to invest in proprietary platforms, and make publishing workflows more intelligent, accessible, and efficient. We need scaling global delivery and domain depth. Following the successful launch of our Philippines center and our acquisition of TNQ Tech, we will keep expanding our responsibility to provide resilience and speed at scale. This extends not just to publishing, but also to large scale e commerce operations where accurate, high velocity content management is critical. And then, of course, depending on trust and compliance, making accessibility, transparency, and security an integral part of every engagement so clients not only achieve efficiency but also meet global standards with confidence. So at a broad level, what I'm really going to focus on is scale and technology. I think if we combine the two together, I think you got the whole world.
Definitely. And I think with our today's conversation, navigating the emerging digital landscape will not be easy. But it is also one of the golden keys if you talk about India's future growth and prosperities. Of course, when you're talking about the opportunities, unlocking them will be a challenge for the government or for businesses large and small, or for even an average individual Indian. But there will be gains along the pain. But if India can accelerate its digital growth trajectory, the rewards will be palatable to millions of businesses and hundreds of millions of its citizens. Thank you so much, Sameer, for taking out the time and effort to be on a podcast today and helping us understand that we will be witnessing a large change in the e-commerce and digital content ecosystem in the coming years. And by implementing effective solutions which are tailored to certain needs and challenges, businesses can create a seamless shopping experience that can meet customer expectations. With any specific solution required, I think Lumina Datamatics is at the forefront of it. So thank you so much. It was lovely chatting with you.
Pleasure.
Great. This is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned more about the digital content ecosystem. Don't forget to, share it within your network and spread more awareness and let us know what is something that you would like to hear about in a next podcast episode. Until then, you can view all our previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.